All right, back to the college football playoffs. Once in the discussion for the number one pick, the number one overall pick in 2021, Justin Fields is now the third-ranked quarterback on Todd McShay's big board, behind Trevor Lawrence and BYU's Zach Wilson, we mentioned earlier. Fields is going to take on the Clemson team that leads the nation in defensive efficiency. Not the best setup for him. The difference, by the way, between Justin Fields' first 3 games this season and his last 3, folks, it's stark. His QBR dropped by over 20 points. His completion percentage fell nearly 30 points. And he has 5 picks in his last 3 games after being spotless in his first 3. Not the kind of trending you want to have coming to the end of the season. So, Mark, it just seems that Justin Fields' stock is falling. What's at stake for him tomorrow night against Clemson?
Well, listen, it's a huge game. There's no doubt about it. There's no hiding from it. But he's ready to embrace that. Talking to Coach Day, talking to people familiar with the program, they know he's ready to play. And we got to keep in mind, I mean, we can't just judge his entire draft stock on a couple games now. Looking up some huge stats that Hembo hooked me up with, but in 20 games at Ohio State, he's had 1 game under a 70 QBR, and that was against Northwestern. Had a couple unfortunate errors, has a miscommunication with the wide receiver right here. There's an interception. And then this is against Indiana, but still he's had, 25 years of college football. Let's talk about the last 25 years. 1 quarterback has had a better touchdown to interception ratio than Justin Fields, and that's Tua Tagovailoa. So let's not get caught up in Justin Fields is just a turnover machine or something. In some of these clips too, you see him running with the ball. Nobody can tackle this kid. He's so explosive. He's had a couple rough games, a couple bad throws, and a couple bad decisions, and that's about it. But teams are going to fall in love with him, and let's not forget how the draft works. All you need is one team to fall in love with you, and I guarantee there's one of those teams in the top 5 who needs a quarterback, is going to fall in love with this kid. In a t-shirt and shorts, he's going to be working out for all these teams. They're just going to be blown away with his leadership ability, with his interview process, and the way he goes out and slings it around on the field. I think he's going to be just fine, and I think he has a good performance tomorrow night.
Okay, but I have to ask you this. I'm going to move on to the game in a second, but I have to ask you, you've been through this process. You know what the draft is like, and we talk all the time on this show. Timing is everything. Not going well for him right now. How much do NFL teams forget about all the stuff you mentioned and look at the last couple games, especially if he doesn't do great in this game, and say, well, this is the book on him, the last couple games we've seen?
Of course, there'll be a little recency bias if he goes out and lays a complete egg, throws 3 interceptions or something, and they lose big. Yeah, of course, that's going to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But at the end of the day, you got to evaluate him with his whole body of work. You're going to take this kid. Everybody's going to be poking and prodding this kid like a poor lab rat. That's essentially what the draft is. But they're going to see him down to his underwear on a stage and be blown away with what his body type looks like, with his interview, the way he interviews. Let's not forget, he was the voice of the Big Ten. He essentially brought back football in the Big Ten. So this kid's ready to take on an NFL locker room. I think he has the intangibles. I think he is the total package, and he's had a rough couple games. So whatever happens tomorrow night, I think he does fine. Sure, it could adjust his draft stock a little bit here or there, but he's going to be just fine. This kid's a baller.
So how do you think Ohio State's run game impacts this game and Fields' performance in it?
Well, that's one of the most important things. They got to get their zone run game rolling, and they got to do it early. They got to do it often, and it has to keep them on track. And the threat of him running, the threat of Trey Sermon running, I mean, you see defenders from Northwestern jumping out of the way because nobody wants to tackle these running backs, whether it's Master Teague or Trey Sermon. But that's who they are. That's who Ryan Day is as a coordinator, and it's the zone run game. Distort the defense's read and then cut the defense in half, open up the backside cutback lanes for the running back, and these guys will be off to the races. But it's a tall task against a very good front and a tough defense in Brett Venables and the Clemson Tigers.
Okay, got a little bit more time left. In the early game, Notre Dame's going to be up against that prolific Alabama offense. You played under Steve Sarkisian, who runs it. What most impresses you about his group?
Well, Coach Sarkisian's in a similar situation to when he was at USC with Reggie Bush, Lendell White, Dwayne Jarrett, Steve Smith. He's got all the options. They have a 3-headed monster in Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, and Mac Jones. The most important thing that Sarkisian's told me in the last month or so is he has a quarterback he can trust. When they call the shots, that doesn't mean he's going to take the shot. He has no problem throwing the ball away, checking it down, taking a snack, and then keeping this team on track. So they love Mac Jones. They love his decision-making ability. This is a tough team to stop. When they get their play action game going, it's on. They'll take deep shots over the field and they'll break your back on defense.